Welcome to the Q&As for a new year, new you, 2024, baby. And question 1 is from Happy Chick 123. I suffer from arthritis and PTSD, depression, anxiety, panic attacks from years of abuse. I'm struggling because I haven't had the right help. What can I do to get into the right mental state to improve my physical health? A brilliant question. Dear, let's get you healthy. Understand that physical, chemical, and emotional stress all have the same effects on the body. So you have to address the emotional, physical, and chemical at the same time. You don't fix one and then the other. So now let's look at the brain. Anxiety, stress, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, impulse control, that's all attention deficit disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. Those are all features of a part of the brain called the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe's programmed by the cerebellum in the back. Now, let's look at the brain completely unique. It burns 90% of the body's oxygen and it only weighs a kilo, about 2 pounds. So and it burns 30% of the body's calories. So it's oxygen hungry and nutrient hungry. But it gets that cerebellum, that little brain in the back, which controls the frontal lobe, gets its information from the position and motion of the vertebrae. So let's use the physical body and breathing and nutrients, because also look at the brain has directly connected to the gut. The gut it's called the enteric brain. You're talking a whole bunch of neurotransmitters are produced in the gut, but it is the gut brain. This is why when they do fecal transplants in people with autism and Alzheimer's, that you see a change in mental function. So your digestive tract is directly connected to the brain. Gut brain, baby. And then we've got an automatic nervous system. One part keeps you alive under stress, and that's the sympathetic or fight or flight. And you're talking years of abuse, that will keep you in a sympathetic dominant state. And that means blood supply to the gut shuts down. So this puts you in a real negative loop where your body gets stimulus, and then your brain, the way the brain works is all neurons fire like dominoes falling. So one thought will hit another thought, will hit another thought, will hit another thought. And let's look at your brain. You produce about 90,000 thoughts a day. The problem is 95% of those thoughts are the exact same thoughts you had the day before. So those brains fire in patterns. And the example I use with a lot of my patients is, like, let's say you and me go from sitting to standing, and my back twinges, your back twinges. For me, it's not a big deal because I probably already adjusted a whole bunch of people, or, there's no emotional attachment because I know that I do a little exercise, do some twisting. I know that pain's going to go away. So there's not an emotional attachment to that painful stimulus. Now, in your body, if you go from sitting to standing and you get that painful stimulus, bam, the dominoes start falling. Am I ever going to get better? I've been to every specialist. The pain is affecting my life. And then those thoughts will suck you down into the pit of hell. So let's look at the physical stressors. Number 1, you got to get the entire structure checked. Because if you have, say, deviations in that spine from past traumas, like I'm sure you do from years of abuse, then that means you get abnormal stimulation of that cerebellum. And that abnormal stimulation is going to cause abnormal frontal lobe function. So you got to look at the physical stressors. And this is why you can just start to do the neck curve exercise if you can. If you can lift your head up so you can get that curve in the neck without discomfort. But a lot of people have been so physically damaged that when they do that neck curve exercise, they get radiating pain down the arms. So that's not an appropriate exercise. We talk about sitting with a foam piece or a plastic water bottle to restore the lumbar curve. And if you're able to do that, beautiful. This is why you got to get to a good chiropractor that's going to take an x-ray and take a post x-ray to show that they actually check the changes. So they can document with an objective analysis that they're fixing the problem. Okay, that's like basic common sense. It's stuff that you would want to see the parts. If you take your car to a mechanic, you want to see the parts they took off. So, this is basic stuff. You take an x-ray, you're going to do some adjustments. Then you take a second x-ray to document that you're fixing the problem. Physical stressors. Then look at your gait. Since you've been in a sympathetic dominant state because of the abuse, we got to look at the parasympathetic, the rest, digest, and repair. And where is that located? That nervous system responsible for regeneration of the tissue is located in the neck and the pelvis. So you're more than likely going to have a pelvis issue. And this is why 100% of the patients, I say, look, take off your shoes. If we see the toe, the big toe is leaning towards the other toes, that means that you've got a pelvis issue because the nerves to the foot are compromised. And that's housing half of the rest, digest, and repair system. So this is why the physical stressors have to be addressed. So 100% of people with your history, I'm going to see unstable pelvis, some type of physical contributing factors. So we've got to address those. Stabilizing the pelvis. Look at our foot and knee health videos. Those are going to be really, really, really helpful to get the body corrected, okay? And so we can get correct stimulation up to the brain. Then look at healthy fats. Okay, this is going to give you good hormone production. Look at probiotics and prebiotics to restore the normal gut flora. Look at fermented foods, and not from just one source. Look at kimchi, kombucha. Gut shot is fantastic. It's just cabbage juice. Then, so building up that gut flora with fermented foods, prebiotic and probiotics is going to be hugely important. Then changing the sleep patterns. Look at our sleep restriction videos. Look at other chemicals you may be exposed to, like alcohol is actually a depressant. So and a lot of people will turn to that in order to deal with the pain. And this is why you've got to address the underlying stressors before you get over addictions. You still got to address the addiction part too. If you're not doing poisonous chemicals, then look at a healthy fat diet. Look at organic. Make sure you're eating foods that your great-grandparents would recognize. Then look at diaphragmatic breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. So the tummy, which looks like a bellows at a blacksmith shop, in, out. And do 10 of those deep breaths. So you're using the bottom 2/3 of your lungs, the biggest surface area. So you're getting oxygen to the system. And this is what I tell when I was doing the doctor review. I'd say, look, if you're stressed and you're in a test, do some diaphragmatic breathing. That'll stimulate the long-term memory. And it'll stimulate the short-term memory, which is where a lot of the answers to the questions you're wondering are. So the diaphragmatic breathing is so important in stress. Then look at symmetrical movement. Some of my patients are so damaged that they can't walk symmetrically. They're walking all crooked because their body's been damaged. So we have them sit on a table with ankle weights and just have them dangle their legs. But they got to dangle their legs even. And what you'll see in people with chronic PTSD, any type of anxiety or stress, they're going to be swinging their feet, and then they're not going to be swinging it even, because that indicates a physical trauma altering how the brain adapts. So you can force that, it's called proprioception, where you can force that stimulus into the brain to get a more even function. And then you can work up to walking symmetrically while you're diaphragmatic breathing. Then, when you're addressing all of that, now we can reprogram the brain. Number of different techniques. The military uses EMDR, eye movement desensitization response. Emotional freedom technique, which is tapping. Tons of videos on that. Dr. Mercola loves that one, and I think it's very, very effective. What we teach our patients, and we teach 100% of our patients, is neurolinguistic programming, where it involves body posture, volume, intonation, and breathing. And this is going to be hugely important for reprogramming that brain. Because remember, in a sympathetic dominant state, it's like you're in the war, you're in a trench, bombs are going off. And so your brain and body are responding correctly based on that stress level. So when you recognize those thought patterns, that's when you do the neurolinguistic programming. The I am healthy, I'm dynamic, I'm vibrant, I'm strong, I am healed. And I do this every day. I cannot, and just think, when you master your emotions, you change your physiology. Think of the meditators, okay? The Om, they're meditating, they could raise or lower their blood pressure. You master your emotions, you change your physiology. But as long as you're addressing the chemical stressors, okay, which changing the sleep, getting healthy foods, and rebuilding the gut flora. You're addressing the physical stressors by getting it checked and doing the exercises to restore that communication to that cerebellum, which is going to control the frontal lobe. You do the diaphragmatic breathing, which gives the brain the oxygen it needs. Because when you're in a stress state, you're not breathing deep. Okay, so that diaphragmatic breathing is going to be helpful, and then symmetrical movements along with the neurolinguistic programming, the I'm healthy, I'm dynamic, I'm vibrant, I'm strong, I'm healed. Because when I'm driving to one of the businesses and I'm thinking about an employee or project or patient, oh my gosh, those thoughts will suck you down into the pit of hell. So I cannot let my brain go on that pattern. So when I recognize that thought firing pattern, it's like, oh man, I'm in the old pattern. So then I stop that and I go through. I'm healthy, I'm dynamic, I'm vibrant, I'm accurate, I'm brief, I'm connected to the healing source of energy. God's love flows from God through me into my patients. 100% of the patients receive that healing energy over and over and over. So I cannot allow my emotions to happen by chance. You master your emotions, you change your physiology. So when I get out of my truck, I'm vibrating at a completely different level. And people say, gee, Berg, how come you got all the, how come you got a positive mental attitude? It doesn't happen by accident. I got to work at it. And realize the world was built for you. You were designed for this world. And we're going to turn the PTSD happy chick into a happy chick. You're going to love this. You are built by God, my dear, and you will recover. Let me know how you're doing. Question 2 from Prezi Radwaminzikanyu. Boy, that's a heck of a name. 2887. What do I think of the carnivore diet? Fantastically good. Okay. But you've got to do this caveat on it. Okay. The animal products that you eat have to be healthy animals. We have a huge problem with our food supply in America. Unless you're eating grass-fed, hormone-free, range-free, normal, healthy meats that your great-great-grandparents would recognize, fantastic. But a lot of our meats are injected with hormones. They're injected with antibiotics. They're fed antibiotics. There's a couple of studies that I can't talk about really that they're using. It's called BT corn in animal feeds, and that's been found in umbilical cords. It's been found in it. So there's a lot of toxins in the concentrated animal feeding operations that we have. But if you're using healthy animal products, you can live very, very healthy on it. I personally don't like it. Healthy animal products are fantastic if that's your lifestyle. Great. And then healthy vegetables to get the nutrients. But the carnivore diet is excellent to get people over the edge. It's absolutely fantastic. We recommend, because it's hard to get when you're in a chronic state of stress, it's hard to get the amino acids, which is the building products that you're getting from the proteins, to build a healthy body. It's easier to cleave the amino acids from plants. This is why we recommend plants when somebody's in a stress state to recover from. But for normal, healthy people, carnivore diet's very, very effective. Question 3, truth over submission. Ooh, I love the name. 4237. That name is going to get you banned. Can diet affect earwax? Absolutely. And contribute to constant dulling hearing? Absolutely it can. Okay. But also let's look at the physical stressors. One of the things about the structure of the earwax is going to be formed outside of the eardrum. Dulled hearing can also happen with problems in the back of the throat. So this means a hypersensitivity of the mucous membranes that are lining that mouth area. Okay, or it could be upper cervical issues causing that soft palate to not flex when you swallow. Because think of this, when you swallow and you clear your ears, what you're actually doing is you're flexing the soft palate, and the eustachian tube, which pierces that soft palate, that drains the middle ear, can get clogged. And this is why, we're taught when you're diving or when you're going up in an airplane or an elevator, you got to pop your ears so they can equalize the pressure. So look at a physical stressor, possibly a cervical issue that's contributing to it. Because if you alter the nerve supply to that area, and the facial area, which includes the outside of the ear, is innervated by stuff coming from the upper cervical spine. So you've got to look at the cervical. So loss of curve in the neck, structural deviations in the thoracic area. So I'm talking looking at the structural of the entire system. Then look at the soft palate. Then look at the diet, okay? Because you are right. Any diet that has some toxins in it, and this could be the pesticides, which a lot of them are estrogen based. Some of the genetically modified foods are sprayed with glyphosate. Well, they are sprayed with glyphosate, all the GMO stuff. And that's a mineral chelator and an antibiotic, which can negatively affect the gut flora. And the gut is where you get tissue production. This is where you get the amino acids, the fatty acids, and the usable sugars from your food so you can build your body healthy. So watch those toxins. And then the hidden ones, they're spraying glyphosates on grains. So any commercially produced grains could have that mineral chelator in there because it desiccates the crop, so that gives up more seeds, even though it's poisonous for the body. So absolutely, but look at the physical and chemical stressors, and you're going to see you're going to recover. Question 4, Sunny Shine. Yeah, I like that name too. How often should you fast, and for how long, to cleanse your body for optimal health? Honestly, what we do is, and this is for cancer, this is for anything, 2 non-consecutive days a week. It's fantastically good for you. And it gives your body a little rest. Make sure you drink plenty of fluids. Water fasting, it's used for extreme things. I'm not a big fan of that, but making sure that you're hydrating is fantastically important. But 2 non-consecutive days a week are fantastic. There can be a 72-hour fast, but again, I wouldn't recommend a dry fast where you're fasting from everything, unless there's an extreme circumstance and you're being monitored. But 3 days, 72 hours is the max that I would recommend. I've done 9-day fasts before, and after about the first 3 days, you kind of get into a rhythm where it's a little different. But recovering from a long-term fast, either 3, 7, or 9 days, you've got to slowly reintroduce the foods. By that, fermented foods, juicing and blending. So that'll get your digestive tract, because that pre-digests the food up to snuff, up to starting to function correctly. But this is interesting about fasting. In the old days, or well, actually still currently when ships go down, in the old days when they had scurvy, which is a nutrient deficiency, when the shipwrecked people would be starving, they were on a low calorie because they, got on the boat when the big boat went down, they didn't have a lot of food. Scurvy would go away. So how does that work? A nutrient deficiency fixed by fasting. The body is just so much more beautiful and dynamic than we give it credit for. Okay, and it's not. When you look at the science of vitamins, nutrients, your body is going to be breaking this stuff down to rebuild the system. And that's why fasting, your body is literally designed for fasting. When you get under low calories, immune system gets stimulated, tissue production gets stimulated. It's one of the greatest things you could do for your health. Question 5. Happy New Year to all of the Dr. B crew. Oh, from 6 Gator Nation. I hope you're from down south. I got a bunch of patients from Louisiana, and I love them. Oh, my gosh. I got a video idea for you. Can you give us truckers some advice on how we can keep our backs healthy? Many of us have spine problems from bouncing in the seat. I've been managing a herniated L5 for 20 years. I do a lot of exercises. I've learned a lot from you and Dr. Stuart McGill, but it's slowly getting worse. Absolutely. Look at our pelvic health videos. This is going to be huge. One thing that truckers get is when you're sitting, okay, think of this. Okay, first, when you're golfing and under that golf swing, the bend, turning, twisting, the pressure on that L5 to S1 disc is 8 times normal. Okay, so if you were golfing for 8 hours a day and your back was sore, you'd say, duh. Okay. Sitting increases the same pressure on that disc 5 times normal. So now it makes sense. But sitting, when you're sitting, you're flattening out, you're opening up. It's called the intervertebral foramen on the back half of where the nerve exits. And so you don't feel that you're doing damage. So we've got to restore the curve while you're sitting. And this is for every office worker, every trucker, every airline pilot, everything. Get something 4 inches in diameter. Okay. And this is going to be a plastic water bottle or rolled up towel. We give non-compressible foam blocks to every patient to turn sitting into therapy. This means every commuter, everybody. And where it goes, the bottom of the roll is the bottom of the elbow. So it's placed this way at the thoracolumbar junction, the junction of the rib cage and low back. And it's placed back there for 20 minutes, take it out for 10 minutes, 20 minutes in, 10 minutes out. The whole time you're sitting. So if you're sitting 5 hours or 8 hours, let's say you're flying across, bam, 20 minutes in, 10 minutes out. If you're watching TV, 20 minutes in, 10 minutes out. The worst thing you can do for your back is to sit in a lazy boy recliner where you're arched backwards, because you're literally reversing those discs. The disc and the lumbar are supposed to be narrow at the back, wide at the front. When you're sitting, those discs flatten out, and that is not good. So that's one. So use that foam piece, rolled up towel, water bottle, whatever you got. Okay, 20 minutes in, 10 minutes out. And don't say why 20 minutes. Okay. Every material on the planet, okay, human tissue, wood, steel, anything, if you put it under a force load, okay, it springs back to its original. That's called an elastic deformation. Human tissue, if you put it under a force load for 18 minutes, that's called a plastic deformation, and then it can maintain that new position. This is why you hear, you only got to exercise 20 minutes a day. Okay, where did they get that 20 minutes? It's from that plastic elastic deformation curve. So you put the human tissue under that force loading, then it maintains that new structure. That's one. The next one, we've got to stabilize the pelvis. So get yourself a trochanter support, because when you're sitting, that butt bone you're sitting on is called the ischial tube. And that can destabilize the pelvis because it's putting a force load under. Then you've got to stretch the calf. So this is why I want you to look at our knee and foot health videos. And so if you're sitting with that foam piece, beautiful, you're stretching your legs and calves, getting a trochanter support to stabilize the pelvis. All of that stuff will make a huge difference. And then talk to your chiropractor. You got to get to a good chiropractor that's going to take an x-ray, identify the problem. And I'm talking from the nose to the toes. So you're looking at the entire structure. Well, actually, the nose to the pelvis. So you're seeing and identifying everything, because your knees may also start to be desiccating out. So there's a leg swinging exercise that you can do when you get out of the truck. There's a twisting exercise that I recommend everybody do, the pilots in particular, when they're on international flights, when they take their break, to do the twisting exercise, because the discs get their nutrients through movement. So that is going to make a huge, huge, huge difference. And then you're going to find out that this disc injury, the L5S1, even though that's the one that you think is the problem, it's not going to be. There's going to be a lateral thoracic deviation, a loss of lumbar curve, loss of cervical curve can lead to a problem. There's so many different force loading that is going to change that. And then stretching the calf, getting the knees in shape, stabilizing the pelvis. And then you're going to be hunky-dory, brother. Now, if your question wasn't answered here, get to the Dr. B VIP. God bless you all. Stay healthy, my friends.